you and the midget horse that you rode in on.
It is devolving into open hatred, open personal animus, and petty drama and squabbles, when I think what should be happening on the right now is a real debate over ideas. And next, guys, we're going to cover the ongoing beef, the increasingly unhinged drama between Ben Shapiro and Candace Owens. So on one hand, you have the conservative media giant and founder of the Daily Wire, who's more of a classical conservative. And then you have Candace Owens, who used to work for him, quit. Now she's this huge podcast YouTube star. She's still right-wing, but she's in this like new space where they have very different and rapidly changing beliefs and ideologies and are very interested in conspiracy theories. Anyway, it's all going down at Turning Point's event, and Ben Shapiro called her out from the stage because, of course, she's made conspiracy theories about Turning Point, supposedly betraying Charlie and covering up his murder and all this stuff that I find to be pretty far-fetched. Anyway, here is that, without further ado, here's that clip from Ben Shapiro.
If Candace Owens decides to spend every day since the murder of Charlie Kirk So, if Candace Owens decides to spend every day since the murder of Charlie Kirk casting aspersions at TPUSA and the people who work here, who worked with Charlie every single day, his best friends, to cast aspersions at Mikey McCoy and Andrew Colvin and Blake Neff and Tyler Boyer and, yes, at Erica Kirk, and to imply or outright claim complicity in a cover-up over Charlie's murder, to spew absolutely baseless trash implicating everyone from French intelligence to Mossad to members of TPUSA in Charlie's murder or a cover-up in that murder, then we, as people with a microphone, have a moral obligation to call that out by name. So, when Candace Owens says, "I don't know, but I know," that is retarded, and we are all more retarded for having heard it.
Well, tell us how you really feel, Ben. I mean, he did not pull his punches there, guys, and it is a lot of drama. I'm getting a little sick of the drama, honestly, and would like to talk a little bit more about the substance, but they are apparently not sick of it because they keep going at each other on the stage at Turning Point and on all of their podcasts. Of course, what I'll say, I will say, I agree with a lot of this. I think Candace has made reckless and irresponsible claims. I'm a huge believer in the idea that extraordinary claims can be true, but they require extraordinary evidence. And she has directly accused some of Charlie Kirk's greatest friends and colleagues of being in on a cover-up to kill him. And you should never make an accusation like that without hardcore proof. And all she has is wild conjecture and speculation and a bunch of dots she connects that don't really make sense or add up. I covered the whole Egyptian planes thing repeatedly this past week, and it isn't correct and doesn't make sense. So she is playing fast and loose with a lot of facts, making extremely serious accusations against people in a way that I agree should be called out and shouldn't be condemned or shouldn't be tolerated just because she has a large audience and you don't want her to get mad at you and send them all and get angry at you or what have you. Part of being a political commentator is standing up and saying what's true and what's right, even if it might not be the most popular thing to say at any given moment. Now, the one thing I wish Ben Shapiro would do is take a little bit of accountability for his role in creating Candace Owens, because Candace has been crazy, low-key. I mean, I criticized her back in 2018, 2019 for some of the stuff she was doing then, but Ben Shapiro, he hired her and promoted her and helped launch her into stardom at the Daily Wire, and now regrets it because now she's targeting Jewish people, and he's understandably very sensitive about that. I also abhor anti-Semitism and conspiracies about Jewish people and all that, but he didn't have a problem with it when her craziness was just targeting other groups and other ideas. He has a huge issue with it now, and I guess I agree with his criticisms, but I do wish he would take some accountability for that. Anyway, though, Candace responded to Ben on her podcast, and oh my God, she went mask off, censors off, no holds barred, just punching back at him. And it's one of the craziest clips I've ever seen. We're about to take a look, but do make sure to subscribe, like, all of that. Remember, sorry to keep plugging it, but it really is huge for me to help me build a sustainable career doing this. Please consider becoming a channel member to help my independent commentary so I can punch left and punch right and bring honest, independent commentary and facts without having to pander to one side. The best thing you can do is become a channel member. You will, of course, unlock ad-free, exclusive, early access episodes. Anyway, guys, let's watch this Candace Owens clip and buckle up because it's a doozy. Sorry. Before we watch the clip, one other thing I forgot to mention. When he points out her saying of, we don't know, but we know is incredibly stupid. I agree. Like, that actually is so dumb. What do you mean? You either know something because of facts or you don't know it because you don't have the facts. She operates based on vibes. We don't know, but we know. It's actually a crazy stance to take. And I'm glad Ben finally called that out. What is she doing with that? Anyway, let's watch this clip.
Retarded for having heard it.
Well, Ben, when it comes to you and having worked with you, I just know the tactics that you use to feign popularity in the public. I just know the amount of money that you are willing to spend on advertising to inflate your numbers to make people think that you're popular. So
I will say, this is true. The Daily Wire does spend a huge amount on promotions to grow their brands and the audiences for their personalities. And that's true. It's a huge part. But that only works if people actually do eventually like the thing you're promoting. You could spend millions of dollars promoting something. If people don't like it, it still won't catch on. So just because they've invested a lot of money in promotion doesn't mean that their audience is therefore all fake. That's not really how it works. And funnily enough, Candace had no problem when they spent a ton of money promoting her, which they did. They spent millions promoting her. Now she wants to call that out.
So, yeah, I don't have to say we don't know when it comes to you. You are such a joke of a little man. Your jealousy against Tucker, your ability to believe that you can keep manipulating the markets. You know those kids booed you on that stage. The amount of messages I got from Turning Point USA people saying, what is happening? Why is he on this stage? Standing against everything that Charlie believed in. That's what you're doing. You're standing against everything that Charlie believed in because you weren't his friend. He didn't like you for that very reason. I look at you and I just think you are such a little worm. I could see.
So she's just responding with these personal insults, and he called her out for these conspiracies. And she's just responding by insulting him personally and also saying, you're not popular. The people at Turning Point don't like you. They don't agree with you. Okay, that doesn't make you wrong. It doesn't mean that he's wrong when he says that your conspiracies are crazy and irresponsible and reckless. He could, let's say everything you're saying is true. Let's say he is a crappy guy and a worm and a snake and he is not popular. Okay, but his criticism of you still rings true. Sorry, not sorry, Candy. It does. And I'm no Ben Shapiro fan. I respect the guy in some ways, but I disagree with him on tons. And I still think his criticism here has a point.
I could see you right now, probably. What can we get out to her? We're going to sue her into bankruptcy again, right? Sue her for every infraction, every word that I don't like, and every time my feelings are hurt. Because what you really believe in is Baal Berith. That's what your people believe in. You believe.
So now she's not just critiquing Ben, she's talking about what your people believe, as in Jews. That is really dangerous, guys. And then she holds up this book. Watch.
You believe that you are contract lords and that people.
Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. She's about to get to the book part, but she's now saying your people believe that you can just control people by suing them. Baby, you signed contracts and you signed agreements and NDAs and then violated them. And then if he sues you for them, you are an individual with agency who made multi-million-dollar deals that you had every ability to review and consent to or not consent to. That is not some evil, sinister Jewish plot. That's just how media works. Every company does that. Every company has these agreements and it sues you if you violate them. And don't say it's because all you Jews are contract lords and start talking about you people. Take some accountability for the fact that you agreed to something maybe you shouldn't have, maybe you regret. But this is just standard media practice. And when you start making it into a conspiracy about Jews, you are being anti-Semitic. Sorry, not sorry.
people are not allowed to violate contracts or you will ruin them for years. You fire someone and you effectively stalk and harass them for years after. I'm here to let you know that I'm done with it. I am done with it. This one is so fully off of the mother effing plantation. Truly, Ben Shapiro, you and the midget horse that you rode in on. And I say that on behalf of the world.
So again, she's just cussing him out and insulting him, which, okay, is he wrong? Is he wrong?
I know you're going to get applauded by Konstantin Kisin and Andrew Christ is King Clavin and all of the people, the men who have to keep applauding what you do like you're a 4-year-old to make you feel good. But the rest of the world can't stand you. You're obnoxious. You have absolutely no values that exist outside of the Talmud. You describe yourself as a Talmudic Jew, and I've learned what's in that Talmud, and I encourage other people at home to learn what is in that Talmud so that.
So guys, she's holding up this ancient book, the Talmudic Jew, that is really old and really wild and inaccurate and spreads very crazy ideas about Jewish people. And she's about to make a bunch of claims about what Ben believes that are not true. So she's just going after him personally and his religion and his faith, and in a really ugly and dark way at this point. There's no denying this. This is not, we're no longer discussing, is she anti-Israel? Like, she's going mask off anti-Jew at this point, to me at least. That's my reading of this.
That you know what Ben thinks of you, because he doesn't just hate me, he hates you too, white men. He hates all black people, okay? If he's following the rules of the Talmud, I mean, when I say hates, they think that we're animals, that they have a right to own us, that they have a right to make us worship them, that they have a right to lie to us, that they.
I'm sorry, but like, she's saying that he believes in slavery, he hates black people, he hates white men, all based on this old book that's totally debunked and disputed. That is not what Ben Shapiro believes. That is not his faith either. Like, it's just not true. It's not reflective of what he believes at all. So you're just, I don't know. This is just crazy to me.
They have a right to sue us and take everything that we have, that they have a right to deceive us.
I mean, you're the one that signed contracts with NDAs and all these non-competes and all these clauses that you now regret. And you're acting like, oh, it's his religious conspiracy to persecute us. Or take a little bit of accountability for what you agreed to. Crazy take, crazy thought.
That they have a right to treat Charlie the way that he treated Charlie while he was alive, only to then try to defraud the population into thinking that he is somehow a part of his legacy, that he somehow cared about Charlie Kirk and cares to protect the people that are working at Turning Point USA. Goodbye, Ben. Goodbye. The question is, how much more money is Ben Shapiro going to spend to make people think that he's popular? How many more articles is his father going to write under a pen name, Hank Berrien of the Daily Wire, under the pen name Hank Berrien, as he wrote while Ben was at Breitbart, before he turned his back and betrayed them too, because that is his nature. He's one of these belly creatures, sliver on. The question is, how many more weeks and years do we have to keep pretending like Ben Shapiro is relevant? So
the thing about Ben's dad writing under a different name actually is true, I believe. He did do that for several years, and that's a little strange, but whatever. I will say this. A lot of people in the Candace camp seem to believe that Ben Shapiro is irrelevant. And first off, again, I go back to this point of that doesn't make him wrong. It doesn't, like, for example, I'm compared to any of these people, I'm totally irrelevant. But my criticisms of them could still be true. Like, how many followers you have doesn't make what you're saying more or less correct. This is all just so petty. It's all like a middle school popularity contest vibe going on. It doesn't make you, I have more followers than you, or I get more views than you. It doesn't make you right, babe. Like, what are you doing? That's not an argument. That's not a substitution for argumentation or for facts or sources or logic. But also, I'll just say this. I agree that Ben Shapiro is not the leading figure on the right anymore. He is not as popular as he was, for sure. But he still does get a significant audience, and he, more importantly, represents a view that's still held by a lot of movement conservatives, elected Republican officials. A lot of very powerful people in office have similar views than him on these issues and trust him as a source. You can't argue he's irrelevant. He's simply not. He still has millions of people that tune into him and lots of powerful and influential ideas. And now, to say he's irrelevant just because he has fallen off somewhat from his heyday of popularity, sure, is I don't think it's true. And more importantly, it doesn't make him wrong. That's my main complaint about all of this. It is devolving into open hatred, open personal animus, and petty drama and squabbles, when I think what should be happening on the right now is a real debate over ideas. Are they going to be blood and soil nationalists? Are they going to be isolationists or interventionists? Are they going to be pro-Israel or anti-Israel? These are the things that actually need to be hashed out. Are they going to be kind of a cosmopolitan big tent, or are they going to be a traditionalist hardcore conservative party? Like, there are so many fundamental divides and ideas and conflict here, and instead it's all getting wrapped up in this drama over personalities that's just getting increasingly personal and unhinged. And I think that's really unfortunate and does a disservice to the actual everyday members of the conservative movement or Republican voters who deserve to, at the very least, know what their leaders stand for and stand up on, rather than just have it all be consumed in this petty hatred and drama. But as an outsider looking in at this point, I will say the drama is entertaining. You can't deny that. You guys will have to let me know what you think in the comments. Make sure you're subscribed, hit the like button, all that. Consider becoming a channel member if you can to help support my content. And guys, that'll be it for today's episode of the Brad vs. Everyone podcast. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll talk again real soon.